Welcome in to all the beautiful souls out there. I am Princess Millens, your favorite grief coach and emotional wellness specialist, and you're listening to and watching the Restore My Soul podcast. Yeah, I know it's been a minute, but we're back, okay? In this space, this is where we help those who struggle with grief and loss and have real conversations about how to overcome it in every area of our life. And through our personal stories, through practical information and wisdom, right? We, from myself and my special guest, we are here to educate you, to inspire you, and to empower you with those strategies that you need in your emotional wellness journey. So we don't offer any medical advice or clinical advice or anything like that. But I believe that we can all learn to heal by creating a mindset to grow past our pain and of course push toward our purpose. And so my goal is to remind everybody that grief is a journey and you don't have to walk it alone. You don't have to take that journey alone. So no matter what the pain is, no matter what the loss is, you can be restored and there is hope for restoration. So we are here to push past the pain together, right? And share our stories of resilience one episode at a time. So I have a special guest today, Stacy Crawley. She is the CEO and founder of Ignite Her Purpose LLC, and she is a passionate woman who is a self-love specialist, a speaker, a best-selling author who is adamant about impacting those and transforming the lives of purpose-driven women and teen girls all around the world. So, and she helps them to embrace that self-love, that, silence those negative self-talk, ignite their confidence so that they can walk boldly in their purpose, right? That's what it's all about. And she is a mom of 4 beautiful girls and also a domestic violence advocate as well. And as although she has struggled with low self-esteem and low self-worth, like many women out here are struggling with, it have not stopped her from overcoming her own mental roadblocks and stepping into her power. So I want to welcome today Stacy Crawley. I'm going to go ahead and bring her up right now. And hi, Stacy.
Hey, Princess.
It is so good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here. I am sure that through your story and what you have to say and sharing that other women will resonate with your story. So I am so thankful that you're here today. And I know that we're going to have a conversation, right? We're going to have a conversation about, how we rediscover ourselves, how we build that emotional resilience, and just learning to be intentional about our self-care, right?
Absolutely.
And so, we just want to dive in. Thank you for coming on. I want to dive in with this first question, though. I want you to share with everybody about your story, who you are, and what caused you to be that domestic violence advocate.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super blessed to be here. Just a little bit about myself. Like you said, I'm a mom of 4. My kids are all under the age of 11. So needless to say, it's a lot going on over in my household. And I recently went through a divorce. And so it's something that I had to work through and parent through, and just parent through the pain of all of that. But what got me to answer your question, it kind of starts back to childhood. So growing up, I was bullied in school. I was told I was ugly. I was fat, even by my cousins. I grew up in a pretty big family. My mom is one of 9. I'm one of 14 grandkids, and I'm pretty sure it's a host of 30 plus great grands at this point,
Oh, wow.
to my late grandmother. Yeah. So, the people that were closest to me, I mean, the people at school that were supposed to be my friends, I went through that, but it was more hurtful from my cousins because it was people that I loved, that
Yeah.
talked about me, told me I was adopted, tell me I would never be accepted. And of course,
Mhm.
I started to take on those things that they were saying to be truth, right? And so I was going through my life, and I was a young girl. I had to be about 10 years old, right, when this started. And so from that age, I took that on, that low self-esteem, that low self-confidence. I dimmed my light because I wasn't accepted. And so
Yeah.
going through life, I ended up in a previous relationship
Yeah.
that I didn't feel protected,
Yeah.
emotionally, verbally, mentally, and sometimes physically. And
Mhm.
so I ended up in that space because of what I dealt with. And all of those things just kind of collided. And it was so normal to me, right? It didn't feel good, but it was normal to me to be in
Yeah.
that situation. And so when I
Yeah.
got out of it, I just thank God. And I'm an advocate for anyone that goes through that, because there's always something behind it, of
Yeah.
why you are in that position. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is a story that is so true and so relevant in even today, right? Even though we've grown up in our own eras, but a lot of things that what we grow through as women, it starts even in childhood as we grow up. You know, the bullying and all of that kind of stuff, and it's really hard out here, right? It's hard to grow up, even as teenagers, because we really don't have the language to sometimes share, even with our parents or even the people that are around us, even that we trust. We don't have that language to even share with them what we're going through, how we're struggling, and all of that. So, kind of talk about that a little bit. Being a teenager, being a teenage or a girl who was struggling with the in the face of being bullied and things like that. Tell me what that was like for you.
It was horrible. I mean, I suffered in silence. Let's just start there. So I didn't even tell my mom what I was going through. And I'm an only child, so on my mom's side at least. And so I didn't feel comfortable enough to come and tell my mother. I didn't feel uh, seen enough to
Mhm.
go and tell my grandmother. I
Yeah,
just, and I'm not that they wouldn't have done anything, but I just
yeah,
didn't know how to say something. And this is, to deal with what I was dealing with. And it was constant. It was like it started that summer, and then it actually went through over a couple of years, even through middle school. So it started when
yeah,
I was in elementary school, and then went through middle school up until
yeah.
maybe high school, even with
Hmm.
like my cousins. And then, it was more like middle school, elementary school with the kids in school. But it was horrible. I constantly doubted myself. I constantly felt
Yeah,
like I would never be accepted. I would never be liked. There's something wrong with me. No one
yeah,
understands me. It was a constant struggle on a daily.
yeah,
And then I got to a point where I felt like, well, wow, maybe if I wasn't here, maybe they wouldn't talk about me. Maybe
yeah,
they wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like I didn't
yeah,
want to be here anymore because it felt that horrid for me. And I
yeah,
didn't know how to articulate that even to my dad,
yeah,
my protector. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
yeah. Yeah, and we know that sometimes that those things happen for different reasons, and then, like I said, sometimes we don't have the language to even say to our parents what is going on and all that kind of stuff. My daughter and I, we just had this conversation about having open communication, or at least teaching your children that, hey, you can come to me and say anything. You know what I'm saying? This is a safe
Yeah.
space. And when we teach them that, but a lot of times in households that, depending on what was going on, like for me, my mom, she was always sick. She had a rheumatic heart. She was always in and out of the hospital. And you said you was the only child. Well, I was almost the only. Well, I ain't gonna say almost, but it felt like I was, right, because I was the only girl, right.
Yeah.
And all my
Yeah.
brothers was much older than me, so I was the prodigy, I guess, for the girls in the family. So it was kind of a little bit difficult, like you said. And of course, growing up, and my mother not being able to kind of nurture that in me, and instill that self-esteem, that self-worth in me. I kind of grew up the same way because again, she was in and out of the hospital. I was with my grandparents and all of that, but of course, they are a different generation. And
Yes.
so what I see now, even as an educator, I was an educator. I'm not an educator. I was in teaching for 20 years in the middle and high school. And I saw this a whole lot. The thing that you just shared that teen girls always deal with, a lot of them they deal with, and they don't know what to do with that. So I want you to speak right now to the parent, or even maybe it might be a teenage girl watching, right? What will you say to them so that they can make it a little bit more easier, or how they can kind of push past that area so they can heal and be able to share even about what's going on with them?
I'm actually going to speak to both really quickly. I'm going to start with the parent. I think a lot of times, and I know for me, I was a very ambitious child. I was always in everything. I was doing everything. My mom didn't have to push me. I was that child, that the go-getter, right?
Yes.
And so I think a lot of times when we have those type of children, we think everything's okay. Like I don't have to worry about that child. And I think a lot of times we need to take time with our children to just get in tune with who they are, get in
Yeah.
tune with their personality, get in tune with what makes them tick and all those things, because then you will be able to understand if there's a shift in the behavior, if there's a shift in the attitude, the tone of voice,
Yeah.
or what have you, something's a
Oh,
little
yeah.
off. I need to check in, right? So that's the one thing. And then as a teen, I would say take time to talk to your parents. As scary as it may be, as
Yeah.
hard as it may be,
Yeah.
just go and talk to your parents. And if it's not your parents, someone that you trust, a
Yeah.
minister at the church, one of your aunties, or someone that you trust, that you feel like your grandmother, right? Someone that you
Yeah.
can go to and just express how you're feeling, because when you get it out, you get it off of you. And then that person can come in and either pray for you
Yeah.
and or give you advice as to how to move forward, and also to affirm you in that moment.
Oh, yeah. That is so good. That is so good. And yeah, it starts somewhere, right? And it starts with the people that we have around us to nurture us and to pour into us, right? Even in those difficult times that we have, right? And I heard you say that, you going through a divorce, had gone through a divorce and everything, and have come to this place where you are even in your company is sharing the things that being a domestic violence advocate and things like that. So, what share with us a little bit about you going through the divorce, and how is that help, and what are your things are you doing to build that resilience off of such a great pain?
Yeah, so my divorce was finalized in 2021. We separated in 2020. And so it's been a very interesting couple of years. We were together for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then we were married for about 12 years. To me, I waited to have children after getting married and went to
Yeah.
school, did all the things that I thought was right.
Yeah.
And so it just didn't work out, and it was something that I constantly prayed about. And it was something that was very, very difficult for me, because the vision that I had for my life didn't match the reality that was playing out. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I had to deal with within myself, and talking to God constantly, like, what is going on here? Like, this is not what I wanted. Right.
Yeah.
And I had to do a lot of things to help me to get through that period, because like I said, at the time, my twins were 2, right?
Yeah.
My oldest was 5 at the time, and my youngest was 8. And I mean, my oldest was 8, excuse me. And so having kids, 4 kids under
Oh,
10,
yeah.
going through that period was tumultuous. I've cried
Yeah.
so many nights. I went through all the stages of grief, even though I didn't lose that person physically in terms of,
Yeah.
not no longer living. I lost the identity of how I defined myself, which was a wife, right? I defined
Absolutely.
myself as something, and I looked at that person as, my protector, my this, my that, and they were no longer there. So going through that process of grief, and going through all the stages was very difficult, very
Yeah.
difficult. And so I had to, one, tap into my support network, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to get help. I had to go to therapy. I was doing therapy twice a week just to get through the pain. And that helped to build my resilience because it helped me to really tap into how God saw me, because I went to a person who was a godly person. And so I was able to really tap into that. I was able to do a lot of thinking and processing and talking to God a lot more than I was at that point. Just to understand, like, show me, guide me, where am I going? You're the captain of the ship. Let me get out of the driver's seat so that you may take the reins and move fluidly and flow through my life. And so then I had to go through a period of mom rage. Like, it was a lot to, and I feel guilty about that now. And God's dealing with me on that because I had to parent through the pain. Like I said, life had to move on. And so that was a lot on me. And so I had to take time to figure out, okay, what can I do to recharge myself and love on myself so that I can be the best for my children during this period of time and going forward. So I had to be intentional about, okay, what is Stacy like? Who is Stacy? Who am I outside of motherhood and being a wife? Like, what do I like? What do I don't like? How do I navigate this new world order, so to speak, in terms of my life, my new normal, so to speak? And so I had to learn self-care, and doing things. So finally coming around, it's just like, oh my God, like going through all of those things that builds you and it toughens you and it makes you more aware, of who God is and the power in which he is and how he can, flow in your life. So
that's a whole lot, right? And we have so much in common, right? We have so much in common to realize, but we got to talk offline. But listen, it's so important to understand that loss is loss. And a lot of times when I speak or anything, I often tell people that loss is loss, no matter if it's through a death or, losing somebody, like through divorce, losing those friendships. Some people have been friends, right, for, 10, 20 childhood friends, and for some reason they're not friends anymore, and then you grieve that time that you had with them and the good times that you had. But I think a lot of us women, right, we define ourselves in marriage as just the wife, right, or whatever structure that we have with being that wife. And when that relationship ends, we don't even know how to see ourselves anymore, because a lot of us, we are such nurturers. We are last on the totem pole, right? We, our husbands, our children, everything is our jobs, everything is up there. And then down here is us. And we're the fallout, right? So, I think sometimes we get lost a lot of times in our identity or the lack thereof when we are in marriage, because I know for me, I went in with no vision. I had no identity when I went into the marriage. So as I began to define myself in the marriage, and then it fell apart, right? Now you find yourself, you got to still redefine yourself, because you see yourself as that wife, that mother, and everything that came along with the duties of that wife, right? So I want you to kind of talk about in your business, Ignite Her Purpose. Tell us what that a little bit about what that is, what you do, and how you support the women that look like you.
Oh, so okay. So let me just tell you where the name came from. I'll just start there really quickly. Ignite Her Purpose. My whole thing, that ever since I was 12, I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker, author, coach, all of the things, right? And so I knew then that this is going to come to pass at some point. And my mom has always told me, you're going to be either a pastor or a speaker when you get older, right? Like, she said that to me multiple times growing up. But for me, it's bigger than the money. It's bigger than the profits, bigger than the business. It's about purpose. It's about we're all called to walk in some purpose. We've all been created for a reason and a purpose. And a
Yeah.
lot of us are walking around sitting on that purpose, sitting on that gift. And my thing is, I want to help the women that God sends in my path, especially the women that look like me, to understand that you have to ignite that purpose, because the one thing that you want to hear when you leave this earth is, my daughter, well done. Well done. You don't want to leave this earth. Excuse me, you want to leave here empty. You want to leave here knowing that when I go back and I stand in front of the Lord, I don't want to say, hey, here's it back. I didn't do anything with it. No, you want to say, I did everything you told me to do. And every gift you gave me, everything that you told me and guided me to do, I did it. And I did it with the fullness and the joy in my heart. And so for me, in my company, I empower women and teen girls, purpose-driven women and teen girls specifically that look like me, because you have to know that you have a purpose. You have to be hungry and know that there's something burning in the inside of you, but you don't know how to bring it forth. You don't know how to ignite it because you've been stunted. You have been diminished. You have dimmed your light. Something from your childhood has kept you stuck, muted, and all things. And I want to empower these women to love on themselves, to get that confidence in God, and to know, that they got so much more that they need to bring to the world, because they owe it to everyone around them to share their gifts. So
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's so needed, Stacy, for real, because again, the more that we can impact, or the younger that we can impact, those of girls who are coming up, then they begin to grow into the women and have the start that we wish we had, right? And so, we want them to have the start that we wish we had. And a lot of times when we have, if we're really walking into our purpose, we're talking to the person that we used to be. And I know it can be challenging, right? It can be so challenging to move beyond the pain, to move beyond what happened in our lives, right? But we stand as testimonies of God's goodness, right? And that He is someone who can restore you, and make it better than even that you could ever imagine, right? So focusing on our purpose, it can just help us shift our mindset away from whatever happened to us. And this is so great work that you're doing in that company that you started, and just so needed here in the world. So I just want to thank you so much again for being here and sharing your story. I'm sure that millions of people are going to watch, and they're going to be touched and be able to resonate with your story and resonate with what you do in your company. So before we leave, I want you to share with everybody how they can connect with you, and how they can follow you on social media. And if you got something coming up, let them know.
All right, so you guys can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Stacy S. Crawley. That's Stacy without an E. And then also my website is www.stacyscrawley.com. I'm doing speaking engagements, a life coach, also in the works of working on my book right now. It's not out, but it will be out sometime next year. And that's where you can find me. I'm excited to connect with each and every one of you. And thank you so much, Princess, for allowing me to be here and to share my story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and close this segment out today. I just want to thank everybody for being here and listening to the Restore My Soul podcast. Make sure that you continue to subscribe and listen in each week as we continue this conversation of how to bounce back from the setback of grief and loss, and how to build that resilience in every aspect of your life. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any new episodes, and also share this with as many people as possible so that they can be encouraged on their emotional wellness journey as well. And I invite you to follow me, Princess Millens, on all social media at Princess Millens, and my website at princessmillens.com. So that's our time for today. Know that I love you all with the love of the Lord. There's nothing that you can do about it. And I will see you on the other side of through. Have a great day.